Also, like me, a huge fan of the show and everybody that's going to be on this stage. Please, warm welcome for Clark Wolf.
Hey guys, how's it going? Man, I am so excited for this panel. Are you guys excited? This show is one of the most badass shows on one of the most badass networks, and I know you guys are excited to hear from the cast and the one and only Mr. Robert Rodriguez. So welcome, and I think we've got a fun trailer to show you guys to kick things off. Gentlemen, introducing Mr. Robert Rodriguez, Mr. DJ Cotrona, Zane Holtz, Asa Gonzalez, Jesse Garcia, Madison Davenport, and Brandon Suhu. Let's hear it one more time. Oh, man. Yeah.
Love you too. You.
So let's go ahead and start. Robert, I wanted to start by talking to you about, from the beginning with season 1 of this show. I was amazed at how I love the movie and stretching the movie so naturally over 10 episodes in season 1, and it fit perfectly. So can you talk a little bit, was this brewing in your mind since you made the movie about how you carry these characters on, or how did you guys go about, embarking on turning this into a series?
Well, over the years, people have always come up to Quentin and I and said how much they love Dusk Till Dawn, the film. And originally, when I made the film, the script didn't have anything about a temple or the lore of the snake. I added that as a way to just kind of embed it more in Mexican, like Mayan and Aztec culture, because vampires are very European. So since his script originally was set in Mexico, I thought, well, let's see if there's any kind of mythology we can tap into. And I found this sort of snake cult. That's why Salma Hayek's character is the only vampire, because the other ones were kind of designed beforehand that kind of had a snake skin to her. And then that last shot of the temple was something that I just added to show that there was a deeper story there, but I didn't get to explore it that much in that film. But I had that matte painting in my house and in my office for all these years since then, so I always look at it and wish I had done more with that story. And then when I got the network, I thought that would be the perfect show to do, because Quentin writes the best characters in the world, and they've never been on TV. Mm-hmm. So I thought, let's make the series, instead of just taking the name Dusk Till Dawn and creating new characters, we can't just follow where the characters left off from the film, because most of them died. So why don't we just go and remake the film in a new way and expand the characters and set the season up in a way that we can do more seasons after. And even Quentin was surprised how much story we got out of his thinnest script ever, because it was an assignment he had been given to write that script. It wasn't like his other script. And he would watch it from week to week, too. I even gave him the copy of Richie's Knife, and he would hold it while he watched each episode and call me after he watched it, because he was surprised to see where the story was going. But that set us up for season 2, which we're in right now, which is now not following anything of the film. And it's now what we had done the first season for, to set up for this new world and to see where the characters go. And I think that's why people like it, is because it's based on Quentin's characters. Seth Gecko, Richie Gecko, Santanico Pandemonium, Kate and Scott. And then the new character that I added, I wanted to have a, kind of a cool Hispanic Texas Ranger character. And we got Jesse Garcia playing.
Which, give him a round of applause. It's one of the best casts on TV and one of the most attractive casts on TV. I also must say. But I wanted to, before we get into the details of season 2 and exploring season 2 with the cast as well, I wanted to follow up a little bit. You just mentioned the mythology, the snake cult, and the things that we sort of learn throughout the first season and a little bit more in season 2. Was that? Can you tell me? Was it heavily researched? Did you guys, where did those ideas and those details come from?
Well, when I talked to my writers, I told them how I came about even coming up with the snake and the cult was that I did some research. They followed that and researched even more, and we found a lot of parallels with the Mayan culture and the crime world, that we found ways to kind of intersect those ideas and have it really pay off. And we call our vampires culebras because they're like snake. They have this whole snake fangs come out. So just add a different lore to it and a different kind of way of doing it. And it's interesting to have those new rules that we can put forth and take advantage in the show.
And so now, season 2. So we're out of the twister, and friendships, relationships, family relationships have all been tested. And so we just saw episode 7, just aired, correct? So we've got a couple more left now. You directed the finale this season.
Yeah, I directed the first one and the last one. And any savings that we could have over the season, I try to pocket away so I could spend it all on number 10. And I did. And it's a bloodbath. So I think you're going to enjoy. I wanted to try and top the snake dance episode because that was always such an iconic, with music and it's in a bar. So all roads lead to episode 10. The characters are just headed. You'll see already in 7 it's setting it up. At 8 and 9 really said you head first into 10. And I'm going to show you one of my favorite sequences from 10 because it is something I've been dreaming about for years and years. I thought, what if the band were vampires and they are just, because I love music, I've always wanted to do a musical. And I thought, instead of dance numbers, how about action scenes and violent, acts done to music. So this band is actually scoring the slaughter that's taking place. All you have to know about the setup, besides that Ninja Turtles himself, Mr. Kevin Eastman, has an appearance in it. It doesn't last very long, so don't blink. He's here watching this with his wife, Courtney. She's in it too. What you need to know about this scene is that there's some crazy blood spilling out of a tanker, and it's hitting the side of this bar. And the brothers are together trying to get Wilmer's character, Carlos, and they got to fight their way across the bar and get to him. And the band is just kind of playing their cool guitar licks and playing a song called Cruisin' for a Bruisin'. So here it comes from episode 10 that I directed, coming up in a few weeks. I hadn't seen that yet.
It was so badass. I feel like we could do a whole panel on that clip we just had.
I wanted to bring back some of the old Dusk Till Dawn magic, which was always music and violence and mayhem and choreography, and
Oh, man.
it was a blast. It's really glad. And that's just part of the episode. That's only 7 minutes, so you gotta watch the rest of the episode in episode 10.
Yeah.
It's a blowout.
A whole 53 minutes more, so don't forget. Okay, so I wanted to talk to the cast. So DJ.
Yeah.
Seth and Katie in the beginning of season 2.
Yes.
They spend, they're kind of an odd couple.
Very much so.
And they start off together. And then now, as we've seen so far, Seth and Richie are sort of reunited.
Yeah.
Is that going to, how does that affect his relationship with Katie, would you say?
I always looked at, these are two very hardened, hardcore criminals, like a codependent duo. And when Kate gets introduced in the first season, I think you see the last shred of innocence or humanity that Seth has left. And these little moments where he's always trying to protect her and make sure that Richie's not doing anything too crazy to her. So it was interesting to see those two characters stuck together at the beginning of the first season, because they ended up on such polar opposite ends and became the two with the most in common, And when we find them in the second season, I mean, their relationship is hilarious in a lot of ways. They're like a married couple. They're like a mother and a son. They're like a father and a daughter. They run the gamut, and it's a complete evolution, because she was just a means to an end for Seth, but it ended up becoming the only support system he had. So, and it was obviously a big point of contention between him and Richie, but. That was the great thing about the second season, is it allowed us to take these characters and these relationships into places that we could explore that nobody expected. We were off the wheels of everything that we saw in the film in the first season. So that was always the point, and what creatively I think we were all the most excited to play with.
Well, and DJ and Zaina as well, what's it like for you to be back on the same team again? And also that you guys have been through so much as brothers. Where does has your relationship changed now that you're teamed up again, or how would you say that your relationship has evolved?
It's interesting because, for the first season, the majority of the work that DJ and I did was always together, from episode 1 almost all the way to the finale. So we got in this rhythm of working together, and we would rehearse together, and we really knew how to play our parts as a duo. And then we got to season 2, and all of a sudden we were apart, and it almost felt like, not that we were playing new characters, but we were playing new versions of the characters. We were both kind of fish out of water. We didn't have that support system of having the brother. I mean, we're the infamous Gecko brothers, and all of a sudden you're just one Gecko. So we had to figure out how to make that work. So both for characters and then for us for actors, there was that 5-episode sort of space where we weren't together. When we finally get back together, not only are the characters finally kind of seeing each other again, but DJ and I were on set together for the first time in months. So it was fueled by whatever sort of chemistry we have together, both on screen and being buddies in real life, kind of finding each other again and having the past of him knowing that, I left him for Santanico and left him.
We were like two exes, like seeing each other at the mall.
Hey, you. Hey. Okay, all right. Yeah. But you see, when they first get back together, they need each other, whether they want to admit it or not. They are two halves of the same whole, and I think that was cool for the audience to see them apart and to want them to get back together, so that when we do, it feels earned.
What's great is you notice in this episode, when they walk in that bar together, you hear the crowd kind of respond. The Gecko brothers, seeing them together is what you're going to wait all season to see. Even when they come together, they're not really together, but you kind of see it build up to when they walk in the room together to take care of business. You can't help but cheer. That's why I lingered on that shot, 'cause it's like, finally the boys are back in town. Let's see these guys walk in like they own the place. That's how the Gecko brothers to me always were, and that's what was so fun about shooting that, knowing this whole season they'd been apart, now they were together.
Well, and I feel like family is a huge theme in this show, not just the Gecko brothers, but, we have Scott and Katie, and then, Jesse's character has his family, and, obviously, Asa, you're tied to all of these characters. And one of the things that I was really surprised about as a viewer and fan of the movie, but also of the series, is how season 2 I feel like this is as much your story, Asa, as it is the Gecko brothers. So can you talk, did you know when you took on this role that this is the arc that this woman would take?
I mean, well, to start with, thank you guys for coming. And honestly, it's really, really important for us. And when Robert came up to me and we started talking about the character, and I had the blessing of being part of this job, he mentioned to me, you know, I couldn't go into the show fully until, honestly, episode 7, 8, until the super famous snake dance and the mayhem and the twister. So for me, it was very exciting to get to second season because we had talked about this and we had mentioned the fact that it was really important to tell this story, this woman. I think that in a men's world, it's always important. And Robert does this better than anyone. I mean, you see every movie he's done, and he always empowers women. He puts us in a level that, as an actress, is just a blessing. And I think that the way that the show's written and how he does that with Kate Fuller and Santanico in two different, and I've been saying this today, day and night, you know, these two powerful women who have been through a lot. The pillar of a family. She's basically the strongest. I'm sorry, Brandon, but the strongest one from the family. You know, she pulled everyone together. That woman side of her that we have as nature. You know, connecting. And she, even in the hardest scenario, she goes for that. She tries to find that. And Santanico as well. She's in this world led by men. She's abused. She's basically being raped by this man. She's been tossed between Carlos and him. And then she calls Richie into her world to really, she has a purpose. And I love that the character is such a, to me, it's an onion. It has so many layers. You know, we start with the show and she's like this goddess being worshipped on first season. And the second one, she becomes a reality. She becomes this raw character. What she understands is she has a mean and where she has to get. But she's also introducing Richard to the Culebra world, and she's also being introduced to the world because she's been in the Twister for ages. And so it's really funny. She has this hints of comedy, like that whole scene when he's in the car with her and she's like, the Lugosi and and Lou Ferrigno, and you're like, Luque, like it's just really funny because she's oblivious about this world, but at the same time she's super strong, and he's always trying to keep that moral part of it. Even though the geckos don't have that moral part, she's more, she's like, no, we gotta eat people to survive, only the strongest survive. And so she's a strong, badass female, and you see her fight in the show, and you're like, yes, you know, and every time
Girl power.
Yeah, girl power. Like you see her with the bow and arrow, you see Kate, and we're blessed to have these characters, and Robert does this best, you know.
That was the fun part about going beyond the film, because even in the film, when Salma Hayek's character dies, I knew that I didn't really want her to die. So if you look close, she smiles before she disappears, because I thought she's going to find a way to come back, and she did. I thought that would be really cool to have her be the villain of the first season, and then you find out she's not the villain just because of the pecking order. She's actually, you know, the heroine of this whole story. So the second season is more about her taking the lead and pushing further, you know, out front to find her destiny, to get revenge.
Yeah, there's so much on this show that I feel like you don't see anywhere else. And I mean, you can talk about that from a surface level with the badass vampires and the bloodshed and all of that, but you can also talk about this relationship between these brothers and this relationship from this other family and, you know, the Lone Ranger and then this woman who's taking charge and killing it, literally and figuratively. So it's exciting for me, at least, I know, as a viewer, to get to watch it every week. That's just a little side note. There's no question there.
Just to add up to that, I think it's really cool to see these characters, these broken souls, trying to hold on to something, you know. The geckos are trying to hold to each other, and it's a beautiful thing, you know. You see them just lost and trying to find, she's trying to find her family, he's trying to maintain his, like, it's just, I don't have a family, but you know, it's just,
You're trying
it's
to
a
make
beautiful
one,
thing.
Exactly, you're trying to make one, that's right.
Thank you.
Well, so Jesse, I wanted to talk to you because this character, your character, is not in the movie. And so that had to have been, I would imagine, exciting, but maybe were you nervous at all to embark on this journey? Because, you know, for better or for worse, everybody else might have had something that they could have looked to if they wanted to.
Well, I got cast super, super fast. I got cast like basically a Friday night before we started shooting on Monday, and I was living in LA at the time, and it was really a whirlwind. I get a call at 10 o'clock at night on Friday night in LA, and I'm like, hey, you got to go to Austin, Texas.
And you're acting opposite Don Johnson, and you got 10 pages of dialogue.
Yeah.
And
At
most
5:30
of
in the
it's
morning.
monologues.
No
Yeah.
pressure.
Yeah, shitloads of dialogue, and I had to be on point. So it was a little nerve-wracking. I get to work with one of my heroes and good friend now. But I learned a lot. I learned a lot really, really fast. I got to work across from Don Johnson and get directed by Robert Rodriguez, and then of course his cast and his crew. They were, everyone's there supporting each other. I couldn't have asked for such a better support team. You know what I mean? So it was a lot of fun, and I've grown a lot as an actor, and I've grown a lot as a human being, just being part of it. We've developed our own family. You say it's a family theme. We've developed our own family within the Dusk world and within the Troublemaker world. So.
Well, in a lot of ways, too, your character, because I can sort of look down the panel and I can see how they pair off a little bit. You get to sort of pair off with Madison for a little while, and then you get to, obviously interact with the brothers. So for you, do you see your character as like a lone wolf, sort of?
I don't know. I mean, like they've come up with different pairings. It'll be interesting to see what happens in season 3 and the subsequent seasons. But even in the first season, I was kind of by myself for the majority of the time, which is
Because I killed your partner.
fucker.
How dare you?
But it was fun. It was fun. Like toward the end of the season, this season, I didn't really get to. I was never on set with these guys until we were overlapping. We just happened to be overlapping. So by the time we come to the end, it's like, oh shit, this is like season 1. We're going to all hang out and work together. So I'm excited whatever direction we decide to take it. I got to do a lot of really, really cool stuff this year, and I think hopefully the fans dig it too.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, speaking of family, like we have been, Madison, your character has gone through a lot this season. And
You don't say.
that's kind of an understatement. So, but can you sort of catch us up on where you think Katie is emotionally at this point? Because when we last saw her, she's still trying to save her brother. She's still fighting for Scott, even though he's for all intents and purposes a quote unquote monster. So, can you talk a little bit about that?
Okay, so when I came into the role of Kate, I was so excited because I love television and the fact that we get to grow every episode with our characters. And what's great about this show is they don't give us the script until that Sunday. And then the whole rest of the week, we're like, okay, shit, how do I figure out where this is going to go the rest of the season? And I felt like season 1 was such a metamorphosis from Kate being this bratty teenage girl who doesn't want to go to Mexico in an RV with her family and her stupid little brother. And by the end of the season, she's a completely different person. I mean, she still has her faith, and that's the last shred of herself that she has, but she's abandoned her brother, and she had to kill her father. God bless him. And God bless me. And season 2, I think Kate's changed, but the one thing that she couldn't change about herself was this unending faith, this faith that she had in her Christianity, and also this faith that she had that she could save her brother. And so even though Seth and her went through the same things, Seth chose drugs, and Kate didn't. I mean, she helped him a little bit. Kate kind of chooses to dive into this new world. Her world was open when she saw culebras, and so she's like, well, that's what it is. I'm gonna create a new Bible of culebras. And so now she's on this mission to find her brother, and halfway through the season, I think she finally loses that innocence, that faith. It kind of is torn from her to see her brother, who she thought was still human, kill these lacrosse players on his team, and that's when she realizes he's not, I can't save him. I can't save him. But even then, even after that, she still thinks she can save him, and I think that's what I love about Kate, is that she has this never-ending faith. And I mean, we'll see if that stays by the end of the season.
And if it hurts her or helps her, I would say. Well, and Brandon, similarly, Scott has gone through a lot as well.
Definitely, definitely.
He's been through some changes. But I wanted to ask you,
Yeah, literally and physically.
but now that Scott sort of teamed up with Carlos, do you think that there's any part of him left to save? Do you think that Kate is on this hopeless mission, or do you think that there's still something there for him?
Honestly, I think that we're all part of our own mission. We all have our own motives, and we're all just trying to find our places in the world. Starting from season 1, Scott's been extremely lost. He didn't know who he was. He never really felt like he belonged anywhere. Being the only Chinese kid in an all-white family, he didn't feel like he belonged. Being in school, he didn't really get along with anyone in class, so he just had no place. Throughout season 2, you kind of see him like finding himself, and it starts off like he's not in the best position, but as he progresses and as he goes on, he kind of climbs along the ranks of the whole Culebra underground. Mm-hmm. And he starts to solidify his place as like a part of the underworld. And what was the original question?
Just if you think, because Kate hasn't given up on him yet,
okay.
As far as we've seen, this season. And so I'm curious for you, do you think that is it a fool's errand? Is there any of Scott left to save?
There's definitely a bit of Scott left. As much as he kind of rejects his past life, he kind of rejects his religion. He even feels like he's not really part of his family, but at the same time, the closest person that he had, like in his entire life, was probably his sister. As much as he runs away from her, as much as he keeps chasing, he tells her to like, screw off, like, stop trying to save me, stop trying to protect me. But he sees her try, like, again and again. And just that love and that persistence, it kind of like gets him to crack a little bit.
I chip away.
Yeah, she like has a little chisel on my heart.
You
and
hate
like,
me at first, but you grew to love me.
Yeah. No, yeah, and like she opens up to me a lot, I think, in like episode 4. And then like I really start to be like, okay, maybe there is something left of this relationship between us. Maybe I really am still a part of the family. So I totally still think there's hope left. They're still brother and sister, and that'll like never change.
That's very optimistic.
Yeah. Scott's not very optimistic, but I feel like
Brandon is
Brandon
optimistic.
Brandon's optimistic for Scott.
Speaking of Carlos, Wilmer Valderrama is not here, obviously, but Robert, I wanted to ask you, what made him the right choice for that role? Because I have to tell you, he's terrifying on the show, and I think he's great. So
He's
what
so
was
fun too? It was one of those things. Sometimes I have casting ideas that are just a little out of the box. It's not something you'd really seen him do before. Mm-hmm. And when I even brought it up at first, people would say, well, the guy Fez from the, and I was like, yeah, he's going to be one of our finest actors. I think I want to direct him. I want to craft a role for him. And I called him and said, I don't really have a part for you yet. It's the Cheech role, the guy who showed up at the very end of Dusk Till Dawn, that guy named Carlos, that's you, but we're going to do something much different with the role. You just have to trust me, come aboard, and we're going to build you a character. And he dove in, and so I knew he was the right guy. I knew he was going to say yes, because I could just kind of, sometimes you get a sense about somebody, even though I didn't really know him. And he came aboard, and as soon as he showed up, he's like, I'm wearing that? I'm driving that car? I get to do all this? He realized he had made the right choice, because he was going to have the most badass role probably in the series that was going to grow. He was a conquistador, and he was going to keep trying to conquer. And she's always unpredictable, and Wilmer can bring that to it. He brings that sense of fun, of unpredictability. He reminds me almost like Ricardo Montalban's Khan. You never know what that guy was going to be up to. You just knew that she was going to be fun to watch, and you better watch your back. And that's what we carried through, and he's been terrific. It's been one of the most fun things, because you didn't know what you had originally. It was a very small, underwritten role in the original film, and he's turned it into this really great part that is now the clear main villain of the second season.
DJ and Zane, for both of you, we've seen your characters sort of struggle a little bit this season. I mean, DJ, your character was having a drug problem.
It was indeed.
And Zane, I think your character, I don't know, do you think that do you each think that your characters are struggling? Zane with the affliction of being a vampire.
Vampirism?
Indeed, indeed. But can you both talk a little bit about that? Because I think it's been really interesting for me as a viewer, regardless of the badass action or all the scares or whatever, to watch you guys do that as actors.
I think Richie's affliction for the second season isn't really so much his becoming a Culebra as it is his ambition. He's come apart from his brother, and he's trying to prove not only to himself but to his brother that he is just as important as Seth in the Gecko Brothers partnership. So he's kind of caught up in trying to do his own thing and be his own man. And as you see throughout the season, he's maybe not as well equipped for that as he thought he was going to be. So he's caught up in believing that he can maybe be better than he is without his brother. And that obviously comes and kicks him in the ass a little bit, and he has to get saved by Seth, which is very humiliating for him and kind of helps him realize that no matter what, he always needs his bro.
Thanks, bro. Similar answer. I think. Look, these are two headstrong. It's a two-headed snake. It works. They're two halves of the same whole, and I think they've been doing that for so long that they don't even realize how symbiotic they are. They're truly codependent in all the good ways and bad ways. So I think they take each other for granted and how they help each other out. And Seth is obviously. He's a man with a plan. He's very ambitious as well, but he just wants to get in, get out, grab a bag of cash, and get to a beach, or so he thinks. I don't necessarily think if he ever got everything he wanted, he would be able to sit still more than a weekend. I think it's the chase for him that's part of it, and more importantly, I think it's the chase and doing these things with his brother. So. When he gets split from Zane or from Richie in the beginning of the second season, it was really cool and interesting to take, this character. He's in front. He's the mouthpiece. He's the P.T. Barnum, the guy on the stage. He's cool. He's confident. He's got everything together. But the second he loses the one person that means anything to him, even though he doesn't show it on the surface, he completely falls apart. And at first, when I read the scripts with how much we messed with the Seth we knew, I was a little reserved about it. I was like, whoa, he's doing heroin. That doesn't make any sense. Seth is a control freak. He would never do that. But I was wrong. It makes perfect sense because this is the only support he has. So I think it was interesting and fun to play to see, what does the coolest guy in the room look like when he's in his underwear crying, doing heroin, and he literally has to be brought back to life by, a young girl. And through that, he learns, he learns about his ambition, and he learns about what's really important to him. And I think, it's a love story between two really, really evil, badass brothers, and the more that they learn that, the more that they become themselves again.
It's funny because I was saying from the beginning of the season, I kind of felt like there was this ambition that was eating away at him, and then you'll actually see, I think it's in episode 8 or 9, there's a bit of a flashback where you see us when we're a little bit younger, and I'm trying to tell him, like, hey, man, we got to set up this thing. We can't just be running from job to job. We got to set up an enterprise, and we have a thing. And he just doesn't, it just kind of goes over his head, and he doesn't listen to a thing that he's saying. So I think that I knew that that's what it was at the beginning of the season, and then when that script showed up, it kind of really cemented that for me, that he's always had this feeling that he needed to do something more, and he felt like he was being held back maybe by Seth. But we'll see by the end of the season where they end up. But I guess just going back to your question, that's more of his affliction than worrying about having to eat people.
So to the whole panel, I have had the good fortune of being on a handful of El Rey sets. I have not been to your set yet, but and Robert and I remember Robert telling me quietly about the director's chair before it even premiered, and I wanted to know, yeah, woo indeed for the director's chair.
Yeah.
But that's kind of my question for all of you. You all are on sort of the flagship show for this really awesome network. I mean, it is so cool. Like, El Rey is such a cool network. And so I'm curious for all of you, like, what has that experience been like to get to play these emotional things, but also have vampires and also do fights and also have Danny Trejo show up and all of these cool things?
Which he killed it, by the way.
He's so great. He
He's
was
so good.
great.
I mean, it's so fun. We have so much fun when we get to the set. I mean,
Too much fun. It's like
Too
we're
much
not
fun.
even working.
it's like, yeah, we're like, oh, it's 6 a.m. in the morning. Who cares? Let's go eat people. Like, it's just really fun, Literally, Zayn and I and everyone who's in the Culebra world, probably Brandon, we were on a no-sleep zone for 6 months. We were literally turning into vampires, shooting every night because every time we had to be outside had to be dark. So, oh, surprise, you're not sleeping. So, but it didn't feel heavy, you know what I mean? It was just so exciting. We would get to set and we would be able to, like, to be part of the Rodriguez world. Like, I'm so excited. I'm like, hi, I'm a Rodriguez girl. What about you? Like, it's just so exciting.
It's a t-shirt.
It's so badass. And we have so much fun on set. And El Rey, as you said, it's such an amazing network. I mean, as you said, people that love just watching movies. You don't have to be into, like, acting or directing. Watching the director's chair and seeing two brilliant creative minds as Robert and another brilliant director as Quentin, or you name it, sitting and talking in those creative brains to each other and watching that happen is just like watching art happen. And then El Rey just has so many cool new shows like Lucha Libre that are like embracing art, which is amazing because to me that's exciting as well because I'm Latin and that excites me. Lucha Libre is like a thing in my country. So I mean, we are just blessed to be part of Robert in any way, be sitting next to him, It's just like
It's
a blessing.
I'm sorry, man. Go ahead.
This is the Comic-Con here. I mean, if you haven't seen El Rey, you got to check it out. If you're at Comic-Con, it's basically Comic-Con TV. I mean, we show, if you haven't seen it, I mean, like Quentin turns it on, he leaves it on. I mean, we got Kung Fu movies, we got nothing but Sam Raimi movies and John Carpenter movies and Miami Vice and nothing but it's curated content. It's only, you can only be badass to be on the network. Nothing else is allowed. So if you haven't seen it, check it out and go to elreynetwork.com and put your zip code in and it'll tell you where it's on. If you have cable, we're in 40 million homes. For chances are, majority of you already have it and you don't even know it. So check it out. 'Cause
Robert.
we got a lot of really cool shit on there.
Robert, this is you. This is you in network form.
Yeah, it's like seeing into
So
his
basically,
brain.
it's the most badass
looking in his
network.
brain.
Well, I'm also,
Ever.
if I wasn't up here right now, I'd be sitting in that audience. It's that audience. This is the audience that loves that network.
Yeah.
Made for people like us.
Indeed, for all the nerds out there.
And if you haven't seen The Director's Chair, it's a show where I interview other directors about the craft. The best episode, I think, is coming up. I mean, I've interviewed Quentin and Guillermo del Toro and Francis Ford Coppola, Michael Mann, George Miller. It's a great episode, too. But I just watched, and I've been showing people this one that's going to come out in November. And it's by far, even if you're not a filmmaker, especially if you're not a filmmaker, it's probably the most inspiring, moving, and if you will want to go climb a mountain after you, and it's the one with Sylvester Stallone. It is fucking awesome. You're gonna love it. To check that one out.
So exciting. Very, very cool. And for Jesse, I wanted to ask you, you have had experience behind the camera as well. Have you and Mr. Rodriguez ever spoken about you directing an episode, or is that something you'd be interested in?
I've been dropping hints. For
He shows up with jodhpurs and a
We've all
tripod.
been
Camera going, hey, look at
Yeah. I'm always bugging the camera guys and everybody on set. It's like, oh, how you doing this? I'm like, yeah, Robert, can I come watch? Like, yeah, you can come over and watch it. Yeah, I mean, directing is kind of the next thing I wanna do, and I'm producing now. I have a movie that's I'm an executive producer that's making the film festival circuits, winning a bunch of awards. So we're really proud of that. It's called Pocha. If you guys watch out for it. But yeah, this is something that's my next. It's the next step, and I know a lot of these guys here too. They want to direct and produce as well.
Yeah, we're all directing. That you didn't know.
Season
Totally
3 is going to be all directed by
We have 10 episodes each season, so
Yeah.
But that's one of the best things about, like, one of the embarrassments of riches. I mean, we all have, we've all been working and we've all done each medium. I'd say we've done a fair enough a little bit of TV and some films, and you know, it's a different process everywhere you go. You know, TV has a very different pace most of the time, and films, if it's big, some things that look as big as that don't feel like it feels for us when we shoot it. You know, and when, at the place that Robert set up at Troublemaker, creativity's king. You know, there's no wrong answers. There's no mistakes, and we really get empowered as actors to try crazy things with the performances, and the same, you know, try on different hats. You know, it's great to be there. It's funny because before I got to work with Robert, anytime I spoke to a few people who shall remain nameless that have worked with him, and they just stopped me immediately anytime I was trying to explain what the project was. They're like, shut up, just go. I'm like, what? You don't know what I'm playing. I could be playing a transsexual Nazi Eskimo. You don't know yet. And they're like, it doesn't matter. Go. Like, no, seriously. They said, just go work with Robert, because if you go down to Troublemaker, it's the place you go to refill up your creative gas tank. It reminds you why you wanted to get into this business in the first place. And we all feel like, you know, so if you get an interest you want to direct, you go, yeah, sure, try it. Pick up a camera, see what happens. You want to paint, you want to draw. It's open doors everywhere. So, you know, it's a very unique experience, and I think we're all very, very, very lucky to be there.
For me, I think, I don't know about some of these guys, but I've had my doubts, you know, throughout my career. I've had some ups and downs, and I've like, fuck, maybe I should do something else, you know, kind of explore something else. And a show like this, just being around this creative, you know, this creative pool, it kind of refuels and reignites my passion for this industry, for acting, and for kind of wanting to jump in the director's chair and put on a producing hat and stuff like that. So, you know, being on a show like this is just, you know, as far as my psyche and my passion for this art, it's like it's gone skyrocket, and I'm back to where I was when I decided I wanted to pursue acting.
That's great. I think we have some time to open it up for some questions,
Yes.
if there are questions from the audience. So don't fight. And so this gentleman, hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you.
This question is for Robert. I just want to say I'm a big fan of your work, and Planet Terror is my all-time favorite.
Thank you.
And I'm also a huge Frazetta fan.
Wow, yeah.
And I'd just like to know, can you tell us anything about Fire and Ice?
Fire and Ice. I'm about to turn in the script for that. It's coming out really terrific. It's over at Sony. They're way into it, and we should have some news really soon on that.
Any casting yet at all?
Oh, no, can't say anything about the casting, but I do have casting in mind.
Okay, I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
That's a really good one.
Thank you. And over here at this microphone, hello.
Hi, my name's Adam. My question is for Madison. If Scott decided to go the route of his father, do you think it would have been as easy for her to kill him as her father?
Oh, God, wow. That's a really good question. I don't know. I think it would be really hard for her, and I don't know if she would have been able to do it. Because, I mean, as you can see throughout this whole season, she's making excuses for her brother. She's saying, well, that's okay, he kills people, but we can find bad people for him to kill. And I think it probably would have been the same thing if it had been Scott instead of her dad.
Thank you. And you're
Thank
all the
you.
shit.
All right, hello. What's your question?
Hi, my name's Anthony. I love all you guys, by the way. Everything you do is amazing. And my question is for Mr. Rodriguez. You think Tarantino will ever find a spot in the role, like an appearance in the upcoming seasons?
That is a great question.
That is a good question. Did we have an idea for him? Oh, yeah.
Maybe gonna play our dad.
Yeah. We thought about the idea, but he was shooting, so I wasn't even able to bring it up to him.
Oh, okay.
Originally, we got a great actor that would have approved. I originally thought we wanted him to play their dad.
Oh, okay.
But we used James Remar, who was just freaking awesome. He was perfect. He was perfect for that. So yeah, now we'll have to find another role for him.
Okay,
But
thank
that
you.
is a good idea.
Thank you.
Hello.
This is also for Mr. Rodriguez. You've been able to work with a lot of other filmmakers, and now you've been interviewing them on your network. Are there any people, maybe people you haven't interviewed, maybe people in your life rather than other filmmakers who you think have been a real influence on your career?
Oh, everybody, and I try to tell this advice as much as they can, is it's not just in the film world. Just surround yourself by masters. Always be a student. You know, I go and get trained as much as I can to hang out with master painters, master musicians, master people in the arts who do something, a discipline different than you do in filmmaking, because it all comes back to just learning more about the creative process. So I'll learn sometimes more by going and taking a workshop painting with a master painter than if I followed a director around for a year. 2 weeks with him, I would learn more about the creative process. So I definitely find other disciplines to learn more about your main discipline, which is really being creative.
Thank you. And hello, what's your question?
Hi, I'm Dan. I write for geeksofdoom.com. Thank you. Robert, I just want to share a very, very quick story. Greatest movie theater experience I ever had was from Dusk Till Dawn. I was 13. I somehow convinced my father to take me, and he kept getting closer and closer to me throughout the movie, mostly when Cheech Marin was on the screen, going, "Oh, dear God, don't tell Mom. Oh, dear God, don't tell Mom." And then they walked into the bar, and it was even more, don't tell Mom, but thank you for that and everything.
You're welcome. Those kind of bonding experiences is what we hope we can accomplish.
Yeah, I can't wait to take my son to something that crazy when he's 13. So he's 11.
Just remember, your dad took you,
Yeah.
so you can take it.
For you and for DJ, and it involves George Clooney, does George Clooney ever call you and personally thank you for launching his ridiculously successful career? And DJ, what's it like
He
following?
calls me every day personally and tells me not to dismantle his amazing career.
Well, what's it like following in his career? And by the way, Venom was an awesome movie.
Oh, yeah. Oh, thanks, man. Yeah.
George is one of the most gracious people you ever meet, so even more undeservedly, the guy had talent, so I gave him a role, but he'll undeservedly gave me like a letter once that said, "Thanks for the shot," because he knew that because I gave him that role, when nobody was offering him a movie role at all, changed Hollywood's perspective on him. Because that was the whole point, was that he was a nice doctor on TV. Nobody could see him in an edgier role. So I told him, like a plan, if I cast you as a killer, they'll know you can do 180 from that, and you'll get offered every role before this one even comes out. And before Dusk came out, he got offered bigger roles, Peacekeeper, One Fine Day, and Batman. So it made his career, gave him that opportunity. But the guy had to deliver, and the guy is amazingly talented. So I may have given him the shot, but he took the shot, and he went all the way to the top, and he's awesome.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. And hello, what is your question?
Hi, my question is for everybody in the panel. How was it like to film the stunts and fight scenes?
Oh, especially Brandon. I mean, come on.
The stunts and fight scenes are super exciting. Actually, I'm really into doing the more actiony stuff. I like to get really physical. I'm pretty trained in like martial arts and whatnot. And the stunt team that we have is like amazing. Like the entire Dashnoff family, like
Yeah,
they
they're
always,
so badass.
They don't really rely on like special effects. Everything is like they're actually doing it.
Hands
like,
on.
Someone
yeah.
flies off a car like they're actually flying off a car like. So the action and stuff is probably one of my favorite parts of working on the show. It's always badass.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi, how's it going? My name's Ryan. My question is for Mr. Rodriguez. I'm a huge fan of yours. I've been a fan since I was a kid. I've been raised on your movies, both in movies I was supposed to watch, like Spy Kids, and then when my dad snuck me to see Sin City when I was a kid.
When
So
you
I've
were
always
5.
loved your movies. I've always loved your movies. I'm also a filmmaker. I take your words when you say to be a filmmaker, just say you're a filmmaker. At my end of film school, I finished my senior project. I'm almost done in December. And I look up to somebody like you, and watching a show like The Director's Chair, which I watch in between classes, because it's a great way to learn.
It is. It's a great way to learn.
It's a great way to learn from a director to a director.
And those guys are masters. I learned by doing it, for sure.
My question is, because you have such a great show like From Dusk Till Dawn, have you thought about bringing more of your movies into TV form? Because I feel like you especially make movies that could be made longer and made more of a story. And
That's
bring
interesting,
story.
because a lot of the movies that I did, I never did TV, but the movies that I would do, they would have characters that you would want to see more of. That's why there's more than one Machete, more than one Spike, it's more than one Desperado, because you wanted to just see more of them. So I was kind of making serialized films, but I think that's why something like Dusk Till Dawn would work good on TV. A Desperado character going from town to town with machine guns in a guitar case would be a series, or
It would be
Machete
great.
solving problems from town to town.
Every
like The
season could be
Incredible
him
Hulk.
coming to a different town.
But I do have ideas for some original shows that could be movies as well. We may do that, have a movie component to them, but no immediate plans to take one of these series yet and turn them into a film. But I think it could, into a series, but I think it could work.
I think it would be great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Lucha Underground is the best wrestling,
It's
best wrestling program.
coming back. Season 2's coming back strong.
That's great. Season 2 of Lucha coming soon. All right.
I may or may not direct the first episode.
Scoops. We getting all the scoops. Yes, hello.
Hello, this is Chris. This is for Rodriguez. Mainly for just the cast. I just started watching this series like about a week ago. I know it's funny. I caught on late. Actually, I'm a fan of the movie, so my friends were telling me, watch Dusk to Dawn, watch Dusk to Dawn. I'm like, there's not much to see there because the movie was just, they went into the bar and everybody died and that was it. So I was like, what is there really to see about that? So I started watching my girlfriend. We got really hooked. And the thing is, like, when I want to ask all you guys and just in general, the director, how did you guys come about making this whole ground story, like making her from the villain to being the hero? I really love that. Like, I like that she has a story. And the Gecko brothers, obviously that Richard didn't die. I hate it. I love Quentin Tarantino, but I like his version of Richie. Yeah. He's actually my favorite character in the show. But in general, how did you guys like come about, like, let's not kill off these characters? Because obviously the brother, I forget your name.
Scott.
Scott dies in the movie as well. So the fact that you guys let them live, how did you go about making that decision?
I wanted the series to last longer with Quentin's original character, so we wanted to retell it in a way where they could live. And for the same thing, for those of you who haven't seen season 1, you can binge watch them, which is the best way to watch Dusk on Netflix. Yeah. Because it takes place from dusk till dawn. The whole season takes place within 12 hours. Oh, okay. So it's actually the best way to watch it is in one sitting. Yeah, well, actually,
I watched the first season on Netflix. I couldn't find the second one because I don't have Array. I'm sorry for the.
Yeah,
network.
you can get it like on iTunes. And
I actually
like
bought it on my PlayStation Network, so
yeah, man.
I did catch on that way. So you guys are amazing. Keep up the good work. You guys are doing a great job.
Thanks,
man.
Thank you, man.
Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, we are out of time. I feel like we could talk to you guys all day, all night, but let's give our wonderful
You guys are the best.
And
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
I've never been to a New York Comic Con. You guys are really wonderful here.
Enjoy the rest of your con, everybody. Thank you so much. Take care.